Hello and welcome. In this video, we will understand what is execute reader method in Dapper. The execute reader method is used to execute SQL query and retrieve the result as an IDataReader. This allows us to read the data in forward only and read only stream. The execute reader method is useful when you need to process a large set of data efficiently because it avoids loading the entire result set into the memory at once. Okay, so it will not load all the data into the memory at once. Instead of this, it will stream the data one by one. And from this, you will be thinking execute reader is same as unbuffered queries, but that is not the case. In this video, we will also understand what is the difference between execute reader and unbuffered queries in Dapper. First, let's see a demo and see how execute reader will work. So I have opened up my Visual Studio and I have this query, select star from employee. So I will try to execute this query using execute reader. On connection object, let's call execute reader. So I have invoked execute reader and I have passed down the SQL query to it. What it will return? It will return an iReader, meaning it will return us a reader. That reader we can store. To fetch the rows from reader, what we can do? We can say while reader.read. So reader.read will fetch the next available row. If the row is available, it will return true. If the row is not available, it will false. That's why we are using a while loop. We will be keep executing the logic within the while loop until we are out of rows. So this is the employee table that I have in my database, and you can see I have first name here and I have salary, and there are other columns also. But as part of this demo, let's just fetch the first name and the salary from this table. So when we have executed reader.read, our cursor is at the first row. So we are here. So on this row, I want to get the first name. First name is nothing but a string data type. So what we can say, I can say reader.get string, right? If you notice, get string will take an integer. Basically, we need to tell the index of the column which you want to fetch. So the index of this column is 1. So we start from 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I can say 1 here also, but we should not do this. There is a way to get the index of the first name column, and to find that index, we can use reader.get ordinal. So I will call get ordinal on this, and I will specify the column name. Okay, my column name is first name, so let me put it here. And now I can store this data in a variable. Similarly, let's do it for salary also. Because salary is of decimal data type, so I have used .get decimal method here. Once we have the first name and salary, let's print that on console window. Let's run the program. You can see we are able to get all the 10 employees and their salary. So this is how basically you can use execute reader method in Dapper. Let's go back to slide and understand some of the other features of execute reader. So basically execute reader can take these parameter. We have seen the first parameter, that is SQL, and this is a mandatory parameter. So this is basically the SQL query that we want to execute, and we can specify the stored procedure name also. Second parameter that it can take is param. If our query is parameterized, then we can pass the parameter using this. Third parameter is transaction. This is basically will be used if you want to use transactions when executing your query. Fourth parameter is command timeout. It represents the time in seconds to wait before terminating the command execution and generating an error. The default value of this parameter is 30 seconds, and this parameter is also optional. If your query is taking a lot of time and you don't want to wait for that query too long, you can specify the timeout period here, and after those many seconds, your query will be terminated and you will receive an error. The final parameter is command type. Using this parameter, you can specify how your SQL query or stored procedure should be interpreted by the data provider. The default value of this parameter is text. Now let's understand what is difference between unbuffered query and an execute reader. Execute reader is a lower level approach. This gives us direct access to the data reader. Unbuffered query is kind of higher level approach. This provides us strongly typed objects. So guys, under the hood, when we are using unbuffered queries, it will actually use an execute reader. Unbuffered query provide us an additional feature, that is object mapping. And object mapping is not available when we are using an execute reader. If you see here, right, we have to explicitly get the column names. There is no mapping here. And if I have to map this data, right, to the object, what I have to do, I have to create a new object and then I need to assign this value to that object. Okay, so there is no auto mapping available when we are using execute reader. The second point is, in execute reader, you are responsible for reading and processing the raw data from the IDataReader. You can see here, we have just received the reader from the Dapper, and now it is our responsibility to read the reader and get the data from it. So this provides us a very granular level control. We can decide how we want to process and what we want to process. Okay, but in case of unbuffered query, Dapper handles the mapping of the raw data and your specified object type. When you're using unbuffered query, you are not responsible to read the data and process that. That will be automatically handled by the Dapper. Execute Reader is useful when you need maximum control. Because you have seen there are different type of parameters like transaction, command type. Using that, you have full control how you want to execute your query. So Execute Reader provides us the maximum control over the data processing, or when you are working with the scenarios where Dapper object mapping is not required, right? So there could be some scenarios where object mapping is not required. In those cases, you can use Execute Reader. Wherever unbuffered query is very useful when dealing with very large data set and you still want to ease the use of Dapper object mapping, right? So both of these types, right, they will execute in an unbuffered way, meaning we are having the benefit of having a memory efficient application. Okay guys, that's it for this video. In the next video, we will understand how we can execute stored procedures using Dapper.